Hi, everyone. Is Ginger Pierce. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I am one of the travel agents with Marvelous Mouse Travels, and we are the agency that runs this Facebook group as well as several others focused on various destinations. And welcome to Sundays with MMT. This is a weekly live panel video series that we do in one of our groups every week. And this week we are here and we are so excited to talk to you about Hawaii. We have a lot of information that we're going to be sharing with you tonight, but we also want to save some time at the end of the video to take your questions. So throughout the video, if at any point you have a question, go ahead and drop that into the comments below, and then we will get to all of the questions at the end of the video. We are going live using a program called StreamYard. And so if you are going to post a question, StreamYard might ask you to grant permission for them to display your profile picture and your username, but you don't have to grant that permission if you don't want to. You can still just post as an anonymous user and we will still be able to view and answer your question. So I'm joined tonight by two amazing Marvelous Mouse Travels agents. Ladies, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. And if you would just take a minute to introduce yourselves, tell us how long you've been with the agency and what the best way is for people to contact you if they're interested in planning a vacation.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name's Mary Alice Fouts. I live in Burlington, North Carolina, and I have been with the agency for just a little over a year. I had my anniversary in October. You can find me at facebook.com/Mary Alice MMT, or you can always email me at maryalice@marvelousmousetravels.com.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jacqueline Versillo. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. I have been with Marvelous Mouse Travels for 3 years, and I love every minute of it. So thank you guys for coming. If you want to reach me, you can reach me on my Facebook page at Jacqueline Versillo's Travels, or you can email me at jacqueline.versillo@marvelousmousetravels.com.
And again, I'm Ginger, and the best way to get in touch with me is gingermmt.com. That is going to take you to my Linktree page, which has all of my different social media links attached to it. So, ladies, as we all know, many popular vacation spots have started the process of reopening after, several months of travel restrictions. And Hawaii started that process back on October 15th. And, having looked over their plan, I can say that it is a very detailed, multi-step process. And so let's start at the very beginning. Are there any quarantine or testing requirements in place for Hawaii right now?
Yes, there are. So I will have to say Hawaii's been very organized with how they have handled this. Obviously, tourism is a big part. So right now, they are requiring a test before you leave to travel to Hawaii, and it must be within 72 hours. And you will they have a website that you will go on to after you take your test, and you will upload it, and you will get a QR code so that they can scan it at the airport to know that you have passed the COVID test. If you don't do this, you will be asked to take a COVID test immediately when you land, and you have to self-quarantine until you get your test results back. And if your test results are positive, you have to quarantine for 14 days, and it will be up to you to pay for that quarantine session. So the testing before you go is the way to do it, and it's a very organized procedure. And again, it's 72 hours before you travel. You have to have that test.
Yes. And, that's a great example of how fluid and ever-changing the situation of reopening is, because we were just talking actually before we started this live session about how Hawaii just updated that policy a couple of days ago, and this new version of it goes into effect on Tuesday. And that is that you actually, you need to have those results in hand even before the final, you're boarding the final leg of your trip. So definitely a fluid process and something to keep up with.
And some islands are actually requiring that second test or making it optional with some incentives tied to that if it is optional. But yeah, some islands are actually requiring a second test after you arrive.
That's true. And that leads in perfectly to the next question because Hawaii is a collection of different islands. And most people who are planning a trip to Hawaii are going to visit multiple islands during their trip. So, are there any restrictions or requirements for inter-island travel right now?
Well, Mary's correct. It has to be within that 72-hour period. So if you fly into Oahu and you stay there for 3 to 4 nights, if you want an island hop, you will have to take an additional test. And there are many testing facilities, and the Hawaii COVID-19.com is a really great resource to look up what it has to be from a specific testing facility, like a Walgreens, a CVS. They have it all listed on there for you, so it's a really great resource. But yes, you will have to get tested again if you are going to be island hopping, unless you have an exemption for some reason, which is very hard to get. But you will have to retake a test.
Mm-hmm. Now, there are different phases to Hawaii's plan, as there have been for many other states as they have reopened too. So, are all of the islands handling their reopening the same way, or are there variations from island to island?
There are some variations. Some of that would be with the second test and how they're going about incentivizing that in some cases, or requiring it in others. So yes, there are some things that are different to their reopenings because each island has a different mayor, different person that's over the jurisdiction, and how they're going to decide the best way for their island to handle the circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and different islands also have different excursions offered, and the more outdoors they are, the better. But there are some indoor excursions, so it just depends on which island you're at. And there again, each island has their own separate website to go to as well. So this is why having a travel advisor for traveling to Hawaii is really important now, to keep up to date with all of the information. And it's not just Hawaii specific; it's island specific.
Absolutely. And that goes beautifully into the next topic that I was going to bring up. Travel agents, I think a lot of people are confused about how and why in this day and age, when you can book a vacation so easily online, how are travel agents still relevant? So, especially with this multi-step process for Hawaii, but everything that we have seen since March when things started to shut down, how, in your opinion, does this situation, this pandemic, illustrate the need for working with a travel advisor?
100% for sure. Like, if you do not want to have to keep up with everything, that's why we're here. Our services don't cost you 1 cent more than they would with booking on your own. And then we get to handle all that stress and all those updates and make sure you're well informed. And I know I can speak for myself and my colleagues here tonight that we've heard horror stories from other agents who have had travelers report to them, their clients say, "Oh my goodness, we were at the airport and we saw this other couple that couldn't leave and come with us. They were honeymooners, etc." And they missed out on their vacation because they weren't up to date.
Can you imagine? Oh my goodness.
I
That would be a nightmare.
It would be. It would be so painful.
It would. It would. So we've discussed reopening, and obviously there's a lot to consider with that. And, it is constantly evolving. And so it's hard to really hit every aspect of that reopening process in one video. So if you are planning a trip to Hawaii and you need that personalized advice, definitely reach out to an agent with Marvelous Mouse Travels and someone who can personalize their tips and recommendations for your specific itinerary. But reopening, that's kind of the not fun part of the video because we're talking about testing and keeping up with procedures and stuff. So let's move on to some of the fun part of planning a vacation to Hawaii. What are some of your personal favorite places to go when you vacation in Hawaii?
Oh my goodness, there are so many for me. Personally, the last trip we took was one of our best. We went to Oahu and we stayed on the Ko'olina side. We actually stayed at Disney's Aulani, and Oahu has two very different sides. You have the Waikiki side, which is kind of, I like to say it's Miami. It's a city on the beach. And the Ko'olina side is more of a tropical paradise. So I enjoyed that so so much. We actually tried to extend our trip, but I think each island's very different. We went to Kauai before that, and when we had very little kiddos, and we just wanted a very mellow, relaxing trip. And Maui's also wonderful as well. I find that there is more stuff to do on Oahu than any other island. I look forward to going back and exploring Maui a little bit more, but I think each island is truly so different from the next. So again, it's very helpful to have a travel advisor who's been to multiple islands to kind of tell you the difference, and what you may have gone on for your honeymoon is going to be totally different what you want to do when you go with your children. So I would say Oahu, my last trip, was the best, and my all-time favorite place to visit in Oahu is Kualoa Ranch, which is where they have filmed Jurassic Park, they have filmed Jurassic World, and amongst many other movies, but it's also a family-run farm where you can go and have a nice lunch made for you from all the foods that they've grown on the farm. The views are absolutely incredible. When I book clients, I always send them there, and 9 out of 10 times, while they're there, they say, can you book another session? We want to go back. We want to go do the ATV tour there. We want to do the horseback riding tour there. So Kualoa Ranch is my favorite place on Oahu to visit.
Awesome.
I feel like there's so many things I could say too. Like Jacqueline's so excited about Hawaii. I've been fortunate enough to travel there numerous times. My family took us there several times when I was young, so I have very fond memories of going to Maui, and I think that was the first island that I visited. But you're right, every island has a different feel and different things that you might be looking for in your trip. The last time we went, took the whole family to Kauai, and it is just a world away. It feels like untouched Hawaii is how I would describe it. But again, we have been to Maui, and I have been to Oahu too. And I actually stayed in the Ko'olina area before Aulani existed. And it is beautiful there. I absolutely agree with Jacqueline. It feels untouched. You've got the great bays that they built in there. And so every area and every island is different too. There are great and awesome black sand beaches that you can find that are just an experience all on their own. Tons of cultural experiences. If you are on Oahu, the Polynesian Cultural Center is amazing. You really get to feel what each of the Polynesian islands and their culture is like. There's a luau there as well. Kauai, the last time we went, we visited Smith family luau, and they have a fern grotto tour that you can do there as well, and that's family run still, so it feels very authentic and not just showy, like come to look at the Hawaii luau. It feels very very much a part of their family and the ceremony that you're there with them. But I mean, just driving the islands can be an experience in itself. Like picking your rental car can be fun because you get to take it all in. And you must have at least one shaved ice per day.
That's a requirement, right?
Must. You need a whole separate budget just for shaved ice.
Very accurate. And I would also say too, Hawaii, so growing up in California, we traveled there often, but it's the only place I've ever traveled in the United States where I feel like I'm in a different country. I feel like it's part of the United States, but the culture and the overall vibe, you feel you're completely transformed and put into it feels like a different country. So it is a magical trip where it is a part of the United States, but there's so much there for you to enjoy.
Right. You almost can't believe your eyes. Like, is this a postcard? Is it a picture? Is it real? It's breathtaking.
So it sounds like it's not only a great option for honeymoons, obviously, but it's a great family trip too. Like I always think of Hawaii as more like, okay, we're going to relax on the beach or something like that. But it sounds like there's a lot of activities that you can do, even if you're a more active, outdoorsy type of family as well. So that's really great to hear.
For sure. Lots of state parks, the beaches, lots of cultural experiences. Things that you do see in the movies like Jurassic Park, you're like, oh, I recognize that. Or lots of movies and television shows have actually been filmed in Hawaii. So you'll start to see things that you're like, oh, that looks familiar.
Yeah. Now, you guys, obviously having been to multiple islands, do you have a particular beach that is your favorite beach?
Ooh, okay. I will say for me, in Oahu, the Ko'olina, the North Shore was very, very fun to visit. Princeville Beach in Hawaii was just gorgeous. The sand is almost like this red color, and I feel like at any time I've ever been to Hawaii, there's a rainbow everywhere I look too. So Princeville Beach was probably one of our favorites. And I do, because there are very different beaches too. In Maui, I find the ocean a little bit more rough, and the currents are a little bit stronger, but Oahu, it's much easier. You could just walk right into the beach. So for family, going to Oahu and Kauai have been great for us as a family beach experience. But I would say Kauai, Princeville there's not as many people there. It's just breathtaking. It's really beautiful. So I can't pick. So I'm gonna say I can't pick this one.
I don't think I could pick either, because they are all so different. I have very vivid memories of as a child when we were in Kauai, and you can take the road and you take it to the end of the road, and all the locals will tell you just take it to the end of the road, and it's a great drive there anyway. But there's this beach there, and you just walk out onto the beach, and it's great for snorkeling. And we went there the last time we went, and it brought all the memories back from when I was a child too. So that would probably be my favorite beach spot, because I don't sit out in the sun and very, very much in tan, as you could probably tell, but I do enjoy the water and all that has to offer.
Awesome. So to kind of wrap up tonight before we move on to take any questions that people might have, setting a budget for Hawaii, I would imagine is probably one of the most challenging parts of planning a Hawaiian vacation because, it is within the United States. And so you might think, okay, well, this is going to be far less expensive than if I were traveling internationally or something. But, we also have to consider airfare. So what tips would you provide to travelers as to setting a realistic budget for a Hawaii vacation?
I think what Jacqueline and I are going to say might be opposites too, because Jacqueline is on the West Coast and I'm on the East Coast. So Jacqueline, if you want to speak to your budget before I speak to mine.
Sure, true. Yeah. So first I want to also state a lot of people think that Hawaii has all-inclusive resorts, and it does not have all-inclusive resorts. So that is one thing to consider when you're traveling there. For, a family on the West Coast, I would say a realistic budget with airfare, you're going to be looking at something between $5,000 to $7,000 for a four. The airfare is really what's going to get you. There are some fantastic deals going on, especially now on resorts in Oahu on Waikiki. Again, that's a more crowded area, so you can find a lot of hotel options where if you jump to a Kauai or a Maui, there aren't as many resorts to choose from, so your price is going to increase a little bit. But I would say, I would start a budget for anybody for Hawaii around $5,000 just to get you there and a hotel and maybe a few excursions in there. But there are some hotels that will offer a breakfast plan or offer a snack plan. And that is why you also need a travel advisor to help kind of navigate that if you're looking to get the best deal for your trip.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. And I agree with you about budgeting. The airfare is going to be what you're not expecting to pay that much for, because even though it is in the United States, you are kind of traveling half a world away, especially from the East Coast. So you definitely want to consider you're probably going to spend $1,000 to $1,500 per ticket for your family to get there. And then your budget based on your hotel would be, what are you looking for? Are you looking for something more economical? Are you looking for something lavish? Is this going to be your all-out trip the one time you go to Hawaii? Or are you looking, to get there and enjoy and have more money to spend while you're there if you're not going to be in the hotel that much? But that's another great reason why it's a great idea to use a travel advisor, so we can help steer you in the right direction. And sometimes it is cheaper. It's just kind of like with anywhere. There's going to be busy seasons and off seasons. So if you want a more economical rate and getting there and staying there, think about early winter after Christmas and before that mid-June mark. And then after school starts back is typically the cheaper times to visit.
Yeah, definitely.
There's also some condo-like resort opportunities as well. So if you want to have that kitchen so you can cook your meals and save a little bit, you're not going to get it's not the resort feel where you have restaurants and room service and everything like that, but it is a great option. And a lot of them are on the water too. So there is a way to make it a budget work for anybody, but you just have to really calculate that airfare. That's where it's going to get you every time. But there are different options to work with that to make the perfect vacation package for you on whether it's your honeymoon or a family trip or a wedding, anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's check our comments here and see if we have any questions or comments that people might have made. This is such great information to know. Thank you for sharing. Oh, thank you so much for joining us. We're glad that it was helpful for you. Let's see. Thanks for sharing all these tips. It was our pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, we
tonight.
could talk about travel all night.
Yeah, that's right.
Ready.
That's right. I'm not seeing any more comments right now, but remember, this video is going to stay, in this group. So it could be that you're not watching it live. Maybe, I'm speaking into the future now and you found this video a couple of days later. You can still ask a question in the comments. And we keep an eye on these videos. And so even if we're not having the opportunity to answer it for you live in the video now, we can always come back to it and we can address that question for you too. So thank you so much for joining us tonight for Sundays with MMT. As you can tell, we had a lot of fun chatting with you this evening. We do all love to talk travel. And if you would like to see where we'll be going live in the next 2 weeks, we have posted our schedule here. We are going to be talking Disney Cruise Line next Sunday night. And then the following Sunday, we'll be talking about when is the best time of year to travel to Universal Orlando. So Marvelous Mouse Travels, we can book you a vacation anywhere in the world, from a theme park to an all-inclusive to a Hawaiian vacation, to really anywhere you want to go. So if you would like to get in touch with one of these ladies that you heard from tonight, we will link their contact information in the comment section and feel free to reach out to them. Remember, our planning services are completely free and you are not going to pay more to book through us than you would to pay directly or to book directly with that vendor. So thank you again so much for joining us, and we hope to see you again next week for another episode of Sundays with MMT.